60 glorious years of innovation, access, patient centricity, and policy advocacy. On behalf of OPPI, I extend a very warm welcome to each one of you for this special evening. Tonight is not just a celebration of 6 decades of excellence in India's pharmaceutical journey. It is a celebration of partnerships and progress. Tonight, we look back with pride, but we look forward with a purpose. We've thoughtfully curated the evening ahead. A trip down the memory lane with OPPI's past presidents, a soulful musical performance by 3 legendary maestros, and of course, good food and even great conversations. On behalf of OPPI, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished guests who have joined us this evening. This year's theme, the power of partnerships, holds a very special significance. Over the past 6 decades, OPPI has worked closely with the Government of India, the regulators, healthcare professionals, research institutions, and global and Indian innovators, all driven by one shared mission: to ensure that India continues to be a leader in delivering quality and innovative healthcare solutions, keeping the patient at its core. Partnerships are not just what we do, they define who we are, because it is only through collaboration that we can bring together science, policy, and action, again for the greater good of patients across nations. With that, ladies and gentlemen, here's to celebrating OPPI, and can we have a big round of applause to start the evening? Thank you. We'll begin with the roundtable with the former presidents. So it's my honor now to invite onto the stage the visionaries who have steered OPPI through its key milestones, OPPI's former presidents. Together, they bring decades of leadership, experience, and insights into how OPPI has evolved in response to the changing contours of healthcare in India. This roundtable conversation will walk us through the memories, the milestones, the challenges, and the indelible moments that shaped who we are today as a people. To moderate this special roundtable, we are pleased to have with us Mr. Amitabh Dubey, President-elect OPPI. I'll request Mr. Dubey to kindly come onto the stage, please. Please join me in welcoming on stage the former OPPI presidents, Mr. Ranga Iyer, President from 2007 to 2009, Mr. A. Vaidish, President from 2017 to 2020, Mr. Sharat Tyagi, President from 2020 to 2021. And the former presidents will be joined by the current OPPI president, Mr. Bhushan Akshikar, on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause as the presidents make their way to the stage. Thank you.
Ex-president.
Welcome, sir.
Over to you, Amitabh.
Thank you. And good evening, everyone. See, it's an absolute honor to be sitting just now on the dais with all past presidents. You feel like you're in US sitting with past presidents and current president and having a roundtable panel discussion. Today we have Mr. Ranga Iyer, sir, who was the OPPI president from 2007 to 2009. He brings up more than 40 plus years of experience in pharma, biologicals, animal health, and consumer health. He started with VET in India for over 10 years as a managing director, and since 2010, he has been in consultancy. So we are honored to have you on the stage. We also have Vaidish sir here on the stage, who was OPPI past president from year 2017 to 2020. He also brings in 40 years plus of pharma experience spanning healthcare, FMCG, and private equity across Asia-Pacific region. He's recognized for guiding corporate governance, enabling sustainable growth, and delivering stakeholder value. He's an accomplished board member, board leader, chairman, independent director, and senior advisor. Honor to have you here, sir, with us. We also have Mr. Sharat Tyagi, sir. Sir was a past president from year 2020 to 21, and he brings in over 35-year plus of experience in India and international markets. He has held various positions of leadership, including the managing director of Boehringer Ingelheim and many senior positions in other companies. A recognized business leader and with vast India and international experience in strategic and operational areas, he's on the board of few companies and runs advisory practices in India. And then we have with us our current president, Bhushan, who has been the president since 2024. So welcome to have you here, Bhushan. And Bhushan brings in 26 plus years of experience in healthcare in India and international markets. And Bhushan is since 2022 the Vice President and Managing Director of GSK in India and has been with GSK since 2011. Before that, he was with J&J and has multiple national and international roles. On behalf of this gathering, we are very honored to have you here, sir, and we want to start the special discussion that we have today. To start the panel discussion, sir, and this round table, I wanted to go back to when you were the president. And I'll start with the year 2007 to 2009 with Rangaiah, sir. So when you were the president and you were leading the Pharma Association, what was one thing that you were very, very proud of that time, and it still reminds you of your glorious days as OPPI president?
Good evening to everybody. Big thank you to all of you to have us here. I mean, past presidents. I thought past presidents is past. That's it. You don't come again. But thank you all for having us here. You know, OPPI in those days were bogged down by a number of issues. So obviously, the patent issues were the number one. But what really took most of the time was the pricing issues, because you have to survive in the company. I mean, the company has to survive. Only then you're going to have an OPPI, you're going to have these people. So pricing was a major challenge, and that was something which I think all of us as presidents were battling with, and I must think of Ranjit Shani, who was also with us at that time and played a major role in all those pricing battles that we fought with the government. And the court cases, don't forget that. I mean, we've had, and I don't think any of those cases have been settled till now. I mean, it's a case from 1980 or 1981, and those cases are still lingering around. But having said that, the number of associations were basically two. It was basically OPPI and the Indian Pharma Association. There was no IPA, and even if there were a few people. And if you won't believe this if I say that most of the IPA members were members of OPPI. I mean, Ranbaxy was a very key player. And I remember this when we had the Minister Ramvilas Paswan, who was the Minister for the pharma industry at one time. And we had a presentation to be made to him. We had almost the top 10 to 15 companies in the industry sitting around that table and talking and discussing with him, including people like Ajay Piramal, I mean, the Ranbaxy brothers, Pankaj Patel, Dilip Sanghvi, I mean, everybody. There was a lot of commonness, but at the same time, we were divisive in one way. We wanted the patent law, the product patent, which obviously it was not in their favor. But there were ways we could work and have the differences but still work together. That was a big thing, and believe me, I think that helped us a long way.
Thank you, sir, for showing this. Regulatory, drug pricing, patent continues to be an issue since that time to us till now. We call that RDP now. It's regulatory data protection, but it's also regulatory, drug pricing, and patents. Coming to you, Vaidish.
We left things halfway.
Coming to you, Vaidish, sir, let me put the same question to you. You were the president for OPPI almost a decade after Mr. Rangaiah. What is the one thing that you are extremely proud of your tenure and as the OPPI president?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Amitabh. So first and foremost, I think 60 years is a long time. So I think we all need to be proud and congratulate all of you being part of OPPI. And my sincere gratitude and thanks to all those who worked for 60 years to make OPPI as what it is today. So hearty congratulations, it's a great moment. So we need to be... Second is that I think that at least some leaders whom I had worked with, people like Ranjit, Sailesh, of course, Ranga, uh, all leaders sitting here. Frankly, in my opinion, more than what I could remember is that I think they all did an outstanding job. So I was quite blessed to know all of them and to be with them to know more about pharma industry. So first and foremost, I know I need to contextualize before I respond to you. First and foremost, you need to remember, as you know, healthcare system, the power moves from one member in the ecosystem to another over a period of time. As an example, the 5 Ps of healthcare system, which is the payer, provider, physician, policy makers, and the playmakers like pharma industry and medtech. At a point of time, physicians played a very big role in our country. So the pharma industry was spending quite a lot of time in doing a lot of work in that area. Now, as we started moving towards some point of time, somewhere in the 70s and 80s, the context was about how do I deal with policymakers who want to take care of the common man, right? So, particularly OPPI members, as I said, the one association, which was the OPPI when we started, and it became a splinter because of the contextual reason why the Indian companies started playing that role of serving the larger portion of the population, right? So from an OPPI perspective, it became much more clearer and clearer as we walked down. By the time, from 2007, when Ranga was there, when I became the president, the context was very different. Because the companies that we represent in OPPI, there are only 3 companies who were in branded generic. Their requirement was slightly different in terms of what OPPI need to do advocacy and policy making. There are other companies who are members who want to bring that innovative drugs to this country, right? So if you are asking me the challenges that we faced, I still remember when Abbott walked out of us, OPPI, a very clear signal that OPPI was not taking care of the interest of the branded generic people, which IPA could do that, which in my opinion, debatable and discussed, but for me, that is a one memorable event to where you should pivot. Where 2 things that we took it up during those days as a value add, what we are going to do to OPPI. First value add is, most of the companies have innovative drugs. Now, innovative drugs in India was not selling at all. Not because of anything else, just that access is an issue. So we put together a big access program, which I will talk about later in the session, is in the area of reimbursement. So frankly, in my opinion, headquarters is looking at why should I be giving innovative drugs to you if your patient cannot afford, you don't have a financial system to pay for it. So that's something which I still remember. We put together a very robust system of collaboration with insurance companies, where I spent a lot of time. I sat on the IRDA committee. And second, again, where is the growth going to come from members of the OPPI? One which we looked at was in the OTC business. I think there's a good amount of work that went around in creating a docket for the government as to how the OTC business should be run. Because that's the interest of, and that's the time, I must say, we involved Indian companies. Cipla and Sun Pharma, they called up and said, we would like to be part of this. So one of the things that I would say is that when you said about partnership is not about you are my enemy and I'm in it. It's all contextual. It's situational, when somebody could be a partner, when they could be an opponent for you. So frankly, apart from the price control advocacy, and third, which is very important, is US reps, trade reps. I still remember they were very wondering as to why India is not responding to. So I think we did a good amount of work in that area. I'm very proud of the fact that some of you are here and you are all continuing to do the same. So I will talk about something in your subsequent conversation. OPPI has a very specific role to play, and you're all doing it. I don't think we should try to boil the ocean, and we should take a couple of big issues and challenges that addresses the members of the OPPI and make sure they get value out of being a member of a fantastic organization like OPPI.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Two very valid points. One is the changing ecosystem, which was there, that focus on physicians, move to policymakers, move to payers, and that will continuously change. And also the change in OPPI with the policymakers' ecosystem shift. And rightly said, we need to take up one or two big points and focus on that through partnerships. Coming to Tyagi, sir, sir, you were at a time OPPI president when the ecosystem, while everything was right, the ecosystem underwent through a big change due to COVID. How would you describe your presidency, and what was one of the proudest moments for you?
My presidency was virtual. Right since I took over in COVID and handed over, I don't think we had any face-to-face meeting. It was completely virtual, and it hit you that when you're trying to navigate a ship during COVID and everything is virtual, you suddenly realize that things can happen even when you don't meet face. And a lot happened during that period. So for me, that was quite an amazing experience, and of course, KG was a partner there as the DG, and that was a phenomenal journey, where you suddenly realize that when you are in a once-in-a-lifetime crisis, all discussions relating to pricing, patents, RDP, they go away, because you are dealing with the biggest crisis that possibly you have seen. And that tells you that if you have a single-minded and single-focused goal, everyone works together. Now, I'm not saying that we should manufacture crisis, but I'm saying that it happens, and it happened extremely well. Issues relating to supply chain, issues relating to purchasing, issues relating to stockouts. They were literally 24/7 discussions, emails going forth, emergency meetings going on, to make sure that we were able to support the government, the people, the doctors, the reps, everyone. Every company had its own crisis, right? Because you had people of your own organization who were being struck with COVID, and you were battling this day in and day out. So for me, that was I would say a phenomenal learning and a great experience to know that you can actually do things extremely well together. Mm-hmm. And we'll come to the partnership part later on this.
Thank you, sir. Very, very rightly said. When you have one single thing to sort out when you are a crisis, you all come together and work with. Coming to you, Bhushan, you have heard Mr. Iyer, you have heard Vaidish sir, you have heard Tyagi sir. What do you think is today the OPPI's one biggest thing that we should be very proud of?
I think there are many, so it will be, very difficult to summarize that 60-year journey in one thing. But I think I'll answer that question in two parts. One is with some data points. Mm-hmm. If you look at the population of India in 1965, we were less than 1 billion, about 490 million Indians. And if you look at the size of the pharma industry, it was largely led by most of the multinationals. Yes, there were some remarkable Indian companies there as well. I think what we should be remarkably proud of as OPPI is when we say we are the pharmacy of the world, the entire ecosystem, and mind you, if you were to split the 60-year journey for OPPI into two parts, the first one was all innovation led on the supply chain side. So our ability as an organization, as an association of multinational companies or research-based companies to put up the manufacturing network and really create the ecosystem to serve the healthcare needs of 500 million Indians. Today, obviously, we have some remarkable Indian companies that have come up to this point where we are now the third largest producer of medicines, the third biggest market. I think that a large part of that is because of what member companies did and stayed committed. As you know, many of the companies, including the one that I represent, are 100 years, 75 years in this country. And I think that's the part which I think we should be remarkably proud of. Our ability to continuously raise the standards of healthcare across the value chain, including working very closely with regulators. I think putting that entire ecosystem should be something that we should take great pride in.
Thank you, Bhushan. I'll move over to the next part, which is going to be talking about, because we've heard the proudest moment, we've heard a bit of challenges, and I'm looking at how does the current and the future landscape of us. I want to go to Vedish, sir. How do you see the role of MNCs in India, especially with regards to innovation, AI, and digital health taking the center stage?
See, frankly, in my opinion, when you said MNC, I assume that you are talking about the innovators,
Innovators, yes.
drug innovators. Some of them could be even Japanese or even India also could be coming into that as a. But fundamentally, to respect innovation, at the end of the day, innovation in United States or the Western world is well respected from a point of view of whatever they come up with, they get sufficiently recognized and rewarded. Now, some could be rewarded more than what is required, but there is a huge economic interest for people to come with innovation to save the population. Now, as far as the India is concerned, still, I don't think we have a framework of figuring out how to respect that innovative drugs that are coming out beyond India. Because we are used to having many of the drugs off patent. Almost 98% of what is being sold in India, most of them are off patent. To that extent, at the end of the day, common man requires the drugs. That's fantastic, right? At the end of the day, India has become a pharmacy of the world. We manufacture specialty generics to the rest of the world. If you want innovation to be respected, unless otherwise, I know that India has done a great job of respecting IP. We have come a long way from where it is to where it is today. We have to come up with a reimbursement mechanism of the innovative drugs. If there is no reimbursement mechanism of what I call it as syndicating the risk, the insurance actuaries know how to syndicate the risk, right? You can't expect every patient to fork out $1 million to buy a drug. It's not going to happen. But I think there has to be some innovative way in which the financing has to happen. Till the time, if you don't finance an innovative drug, you're not going to get it. Even in Africa, HIV drugs are available today. GSK actually, I remember, GSK sell more than $2 billion of HIV drugs, right? Primarily nowhere to Africa. Does an African society can afford to pay? No. But they are well funded through various funding mechanisms. So the issue here is, if you want the latest drug that has been invented in the rest of the world, it has to be made access to the common man in India. What we need to do is to come up with a, I know it's very easy to say, I remember, many of you remember, we talked about it during the Prime Minister program where it's pointing towards the common man below poverty line, but we also talked about the missing middle, the middle class population, where we can come up with a insurance scheme where they pay X amount of 4,000 to 5,000 rupees, they get covered for all kinds of diseases where they have access to the innovative drugs. Now, without getting into the details. So, for me, fundamentally, we need to fix this. Till that time you don't fix it, you are going to get only about 10 people getting access to some drugs. Like what happened to the obesity drug right now we are talking about. There are people getting it, but there are a lot of other people also need to get, right? So the company is figuring out, both the companies here, they're all trying to figure out how to access it. Now, as far as the digital, frankly, in my opinion, India is going to play a big role. Whether you like it or not, I have been dealing with a couple of AI startups and talking about them, it's mind-blowing. In fact, I was attending a conference just about 4-5 last week in Delhi. Oh, amazing stuff is happening, and India is going to lead. Whether you like it or not, all of us are going to get benefited for the world, not just only for India. There's so much work is happening, and it's happening at a breakneck speed. If you have listened to some of the presentation, I was wondering in 45 languages, there AI education is happening. And the government of India is leading it. The people who made a presentation, they're all from IAS officers and people who from IIM Ahmedabad joined government services. So there is a huge amount of tailwind, in my opinion, it's happening. And particularly in the area of healthcare, you are going to see a big impact. So frankly, in my opinion, upside, brilliant for AI and digital. And as far as innovative drugs coming to India and the innovation ecosystem, I think Glenmark, the one which they did of selling their one of their phase 2 or phase 3, right? Yeah. So it's fantastic. Though you set up a first firing has been done, and then we also have OCAD talking about a drug coming out. Frankly, in my opinion, we need to create that innovative ecosystem, and multinational companies will partner. There's no other alternative. India has to be partnered for back-end GCCs and all those stuff. So much is happening in the GCC. I somehow believe for MNCs, the model is not the same old model of selling branded generic in India. It's going to be multiple ways in which the MNCs are going to utilize India for India as well as for the rest of the world. I am only seeing a far brighter future rather than getting stuck in the price control of branded generic. I think it's a very narrow piece of the whole picture.
Thank you, sir. You touched some very, very interesting points that how the AI is going to change the ecosystem and how it's the speed of that AI and digital is so fast, supported by the government and led by the government too in India. I want to bring up the point and I want to take it forward from where you left on innovation and reimbursement to Rangaiyer, sir. So the strength of MNCs has always been innovation, correct? And you have been in the industry for so many years. How do you see the balance? And I'm just picking up from what the Vaidish sir had said, that how do you see the balance between innovation and access? And what would be your recommendation? Means how should the global MNCs be operating in India with regards to bringing innovation and ensuring faster access to the environment?
I was listening to Vaidish and I was thinking about the days when we had a panel to discuss with the minister before the IPR bill came. This is like, I'm talking now 20 years back. And we had people like Hussain Siddi Said from Pfizer, PG Shah on the other side, Prakash Modi, Malvinder Singh. I mean, we had all these big guys and we were from OPPI, a couple of us negotiating and discussing and dealing with this. There was one subject which took a lot of time. And there were so many views on that. And that was the incremental innovation. I don't know how many of you have heard about that over the years. Innovation is very clear, but the word incremental innovation, and everybody said, if we do this, the MNCs will get away with, doing incremental innovations and evergreen, exactly, and evergreen it, and we'll never be able to do it. And that is the time when we were talking to the Indian companies, you are the guys who can do the incremental innovation much better. Why are you refusing it? Why are you saying no to it? And believe me, this went on and on for a couple of days. And I remember the minister was Kamal Nath in those days. And he was very patiently listening to all this. Ultimately, we didn't get it. We didn't get the incremental innovation. So what I'm saying is, India has the capability. They can do it. The problem is, it's a long project. It's a long-term project. It's not like 1 year, 2 years. It's like 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. Do we have the money? We can fund it. There are people who are willing to fund it. But the point is, we need to be committed to it and say we will work on it for 10 to 15 years. And according to me, even those days, we were thinking about this. Before I get to that, most of the innovative drugs are manufactured in various stages in India. Most of the innovative drugs during the stage of innovation, they're manufactured in India. I don't want to take any company names, but I know at least about 3 to 4 companies who are manufacturing it in various parts and handing it over to the other company to take it forward. So we are already in it. We need the support of the government, and we need to take that initiative. I think there are, and as we talk, there are a couple of companies, without taking names again, who are working on it, who are talking about smaller. Okay, again, new use, new applications are not patentable. So you have people saying, I cannot get any invest billions of dollars or even millions of dollars and work on a project for 10 years, 12 years is going to be very difficult. So my point is that we need to work in partnership with companies in India, overseas, however you make the partnership, and then try and get some new drugs. And there are drugs today which are not even looked at by the foreign companies because they are not very beneficial. So there are a lot of vacuum and a lot of space available for people to work on. I don't know when it's going to happen. But I can tell you one thing. People are now, at least the big companies in the IPA, are fed up of the branded generics. They themselves believe that they need to get out of this and work on something different. So the thinking is on. When it will turn into action, I'm not sure.
Thank you, sir. I'm coming to you, Sharad sir, on the next point. You have heard Vaidesh sir talk about reimbursement mechanism, digital is going to change. We have seen how partnerships, what Rangaiah sir said, is going to help the system. I want to ask you from a regulatory landscape, what do you think would require significant changes for having a lasting impact on the innovative industry?
So, when we say regulatory landscape, actually we are talking about, because the regulated industry, there are things you can or cannot. Adish had earlier touched on a topic which is very close to my heart in many ways. And it used to come up, I remember Ranjit used to bring it up also. And we did pretty good work on advocacy on that, which is on the OTC part. And the reason I say that is, if you look at the evolution of healthcare in India, at the time of independence, 50 years, 60 years back, when only MNCs who were there, you're talking about the acute diseases, the infectious diseases, and you're talking about diarrhea, cholera, etc. At that time also, those who could afford to get treatments. The poor could not get those treatments. We have evolved to a situation where the government has done enough to be able to take a lot of steps in managing infectious diseases. Now we were in chronic disease areas. The next step is going to be in the rare diseases, oncology, specialty areas. And this cycle will continue. Every time you are moving your population's, lifespans or to a better and better area, the newer areas you will need to tackle will initially be unaffordable, and then they need to get better. So I think the regulatory landscape needs to understand that if you as a nation have to become what you would call as a developed nation, then yes, you got your infectious disease under control. A lot of chronic diseases are under control. Prices have come down, they become generic. But the next stage, like what Vaidesh also said, is about managing the real next step of treatment in specialty diseases, in oncology, more life-threatening diseases, and rare diseases. There needs to be a really good policy which will allow patients to be able to get that treatment without having to sell their arm, leg, family. And that is where coming together of the government, the corporate sector and insurance. I know Vaidesh is a very strong proponent of insurance. I think insurance is one arm which can do wonders for such, because ultimately you'll do your actuarial working, whatever, and figure out that out of X million people, how many will get it, and if premium, you'll be able to afford it. I think that's the part that is really missing, and that's also, I believe, where OPPI can play a really important role, because all OPPI member companies are now away from your acute and even chronic. You're getting into all specialties. Now, you can't come here in India with a population of, 1.3 billion and sell to 100 patients. That access with insurance and government is extremely critical. OTC is critical because even today, the poorest of the poor in tier 3, tier 4 and villages cannot get simple drugs for pain and for fever and for cough and cold. OTC will allow that access to happen. You know, too long we have confused access with pricing. OTC is the real access for a lot of these. This is my thought on both these
Very fair.
topics.
I just want to add on to what Sharad just said. When we talk about regulatory, we always talk about new drugs, new medicines. I think regulatory aspects, you should also be talking about existing drugs, manufacturing the drugs, the quality of drugs. And where we are losing out in a long way, and believe me, I've been hearing stories when I talk to some of the people about how quality of drugs in the Jan Aushadhi stores are terrible. Now, we need to get that regulatory aspect, to a level where people will, trust the medicine and not, think, is this good or is this bad? So I think regulatory aspect in that sense has still not moved up at all. And we've been hearing this for many, many years, GMP, all those things have been spoken about, but we are still far away on that.
Thank you, sir. Bhushan, I'm going to be putting you on a spot a bit. We have heard Ranga sir, we have heard Vaidesh, we have heard Sharad sir on innovation, what needs to be done. How would you define success for OPPI in the next decade with regards to innovation, access, digital, quality going forward?
I think in one simple word, relevance. I would define success of OPPI in terms of staying relevant. And not just in the corridors of power when we meet people in the ministry or the regulator's office, but I think when you create impact at scale for the 1.5 billion Indians whose healthcare needs we need to serve, how do you still stay relevant as an industry association? And I just talked about what we did for the first 60 years. The next 60 years should look very different in terms of what we bring, in terms of upscaling that ecosystem. You just heard Vaidesh talking about the innovation centers, sometimes called as GCCs, or value creation centers. But I think there's a lot of exciting work happening in many of the member companies of the OPPI in terms of early R&D, clinical operations. And if you want to have the next set of antibody drug conjugates coming out of India, that ecosystem has to get unlocked. So I think, to my mind, the next 10 years should look very different compared to the last 60 that we've lived as an OPPI setup. And again, the definition, the KPIs would again be in terms of not just how many successful brand launches we've had, that's an outcome. How many lives are we able to touch? How many collaborative efforts are we able to forge across stakeholders, including Indian companies, and then live up to that compelling vision of Vikasit Bharat 2047. So I think that's the clear roadmap that we should be having.
Thank you, Bhushan. We are going to be moving to the last and the final section. You know that while we are celebrating 60 years of OPPI today evening, we are also having OPPI Summit, which is Power of Partnership. And there's a strong purpose behind the power of partnership. Partnerships have helped in making significant impact in the ecosystem. They have helped in accelerating innovation, expanding reach and scale, strengthening credibility and trust, creating social and economic impact, turning purpose into actions. The power of partnerships lies in multiplying strengths, bridging gaps, and creating impact far greater than the sum of individual efforts. Looking at the power of partnerships, I want to go to Sharad sir in this one. What role can OPPI play as a catalyst for multi-stakeholder collaboration?
I think the massive role you can play, taking up with what I mentioned earlier without repeating it, I think one of the best examples of what I would call as crossover collaboration is Sudarshan ji sitting here. He has worked with OPPI, he's with IPA. If, all the organizations talk about putting patient first. If we actually adopt that and say, think about the patients in India, and then figure out how to work with everyone else. I think this whole thing about Indian companies, multinational companies, it will go away. Honestly, it will go. Whatever be the issues relating to RDPs or patents, etc., that's in the, somewhat to my mind, in the backdrop. More important thing is, You need to become a developed nation. There is a focus the country has of being one of the fastest economies in the economy. You have to have the ability of being fostering partnerships with the government, with the Indian companies. Now, Indian company MNC partnerships have all happened in marketing areas. Like we heard some of the panelists say it needs to get into R&D, etc. That's much more still on the, I would say, technology or market side. But from a thought process, you need to have the partnership to say we are all working for the same thing. And once you do that, I'm very sure a lot of things will ease out. Now, I keep hearing, because, okay, I retired 4 years ago, we keep talking about everyone's, oh, what's happening to MNCs, your downsizing. It's not about downsizing. Your focus has shifted to what's going to be the next level of technology which this country needs. And if you are not going to drive how that's going to be adapted to the country, how it's not going to be accessible to the country, and how the partnership is not going to be built, you can keep moaning, I had 2,000 reps, now I have 300. It's irrelevant. That's not the point at all. The point is, what are you bringing in now, and will you be able to bring it effectively for the benefit of the country? And I think that's, once you start thinking that, you will be able to get to the right path.
Thank you, sir. What you said is very true that if everybody starts putting patient in the center of a solution, the partnerships will start flourishing themselves. Coming to Rangaiah, sir, as we've been talking, we know that partnerships are becoming the currency of progress. We all need to partner to reach out to more stakeholders. How can global MNCs, Indian MNCs, and government institutions co-create value rather than compete for it?
If you really think about this, partnerships is the way MNCs came into India. MNCs could not come in those days of FERA on their own. They all had partners. They all had an Indian partner in whatever way, for whatever purpose, manufacturing or whatever way. It's over a period of time that, the MNCs wanted to get bigger share, and some of them became 100% owned or on their own. So it's not something new. We need to be able to leverage each other's strength. Clearly, the big Indian companies today have a lot of strength in a lot of areas. We need to work on how we can leverage that, the MNCs, the Indian companies, the government, and the financial institutions. You need the financial institutions. This is one area. We talk about private equities, value adders. We need to get some of these guys into the fray and say, let's work together and let's form a team and let's work on a project and let's leverage each other's strength. It is possible. It's not impossible. It's only that the trust factor has to be built up, and I think this is where OPPI, IPA, the associations can work on it and ensure that this trust factor is built up. And individually, there were n number of agreements between multinationals and Indian companies when they started working. So it's not impossible. It is just how you structure it and how you build the trust, you can do it.
It's very rightly said, sir. Trust is the basis for all partnerships to happen. Coming to Vaidesh, sir. Sir, a memorable example which left a lasting impact in your career for industry academia or industry government or cross-company collaboration and partnerships?
That's a very big question. So, before talking about my impact, I want to leave one point I think people need to remember. What happened to vaccines during COVID time taught us a big lesson. How to work as one integrated country for healthcare. I think, unfortunately, we are not learning the lesson. There was a mandate right from the top saying that there has to be a procedure protocol, what drugs to be bought, at what price, what is the role of a clinician, what is the role of a device manufacturer, what is the role of technology manufacturer, diagnostic guys, all well defined. And look at the way, and digital was used. We keep talking about digital, what is the future? Frankly, in my opinion, you just replicate the model of what we did during COVID, how beautifully India managed the entire pandemic with such, uh, sleekness compared to others. You know why? Because we use the power of what is available, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's a face mask, whether it's hand cleaning, or whether it is a drug that is to be brought to. Protocol was clear across the country. Right from UP to Tamil Nadu, you will have the same protocol being followed by the doctors on how to treat the disease. Now, only thing that I kept asking, I know Rajendra is here, I spoke about it, why it cannot be done for every procedure, and reimbursement was very, very clear to people. Those who are supplying drugs, they knew exactly what is the quantity I'm going to give, what price I'm going to negotiate, and there was somebody who was negotiating, pricing was done, boom. Right? Now, if you can do that for every oncology drugs, same way, use the same digital format, right? I think we need to reimagine. And we need to push this agenda to make sure that we are able to use that as a template of success, right? Where all states, they didn't question, they didn't challenge, they executed it. If you do that, I'm telling you, OPPI will be sitting on a big, huge opportunity for most of the drugs, because all the expensive drugs got negotiated, got a good price, and every patient got it, and somebody paid for it, right? So frankly, in my opinion, the lasting impact, which we have been talking about, how to integrate the healthcare system in a country. Once you do that, I think OPPI can play a very big role. You may want to look at that as one of your agenda, how to talk about this to the policy makers and use it for your specialty drugs. From my perspective, for me, the biggest experience that I had was when I was in MedTech at that time. I was attending colorectal surgery with Dr. Parul Shukla and in Tata Memorial Hospital. And I was sitting with him in his chamber, and the patient relative came to meet him. And patient relative asked the doctor, I'm saying in Hindi, he said, Dr. Saab, भाई का क्या होगा, कितना दिन जिएंगे? And he said, yeah, another 4 months, possibly, because it's stage 4, because we are closed. And the response from the brother is that, can it be shorter? Because we have to sell properties, and my son has to study, daughter has to be married, we already spent so much of money. So I was shocked. And that really made me to think about, when I passionately talk about reimbursement, then when the patient relative went, I asked Dr. Parul, he said, why is that these guys can't get any reimbursement? He says, no, Vaidheesh, your devices are expensive, but what we do is that we send them to Tata Trust or someplace where they can get some money, but otherwise this is state. Then quickly I called up, Chika Sharma at that time was the CEO of Prudential, insurance, what insurance? No. That time she was the head of ICICI Insurance. And I said, I want to meet you. Then I asked her, do you have the health insurance program? Then she called somebody and said, hey, what do you guys? He said, yeah, we launched the product for for the cancer surgery. And I said, how many policies you will be selling? About first quarter, we are looking at 2,000 policies. I said, 2,000 policies in $1 billion, what the hell you guys are going to do? Then I met the LIC chairman, Vijayan. I went and met Oriental. I said, we need to solve this problem. And then I went to CI. I said, listen, I'm forming a committee. I'm the chairman of the committee. I'm going to invite all of them. I called all the hospital owners, including Dr. Pratap Reddy, and I said, we need to discuss. You won't believe, I thought that nobody will turn up for the meeting. I had 27 people attending my first meeting. And you won't believe, everybody showed interest in solving this problem. Now, the reason why I'm saying that I bankrolled it from when I was MD of J&J, I had to spend about 50 lakhs to a crore out of my A&P budget to drive this agenda. Because my boss, I didn't want to tell them what I was doing, but somebody has to drive the agenda, right? So 10 years we did it. Many of our devices got reimbursed. Some of the robotic surgeries are getting reimbursed today. What I want to leave the lesson for all of you is, I don't think we in pharma industry take this very seriously. You guys need to drive this. Bring everybody on the table, have a conversation. Why oncology drug? Why even Novartis drug, one of the drug is about $1 million, right? Why cannot be made easily available to the common people? So my call for action, based on my experience, is it possible? Yes. As an MD, I could find out money, but without telling my boss. If I would tell him I'm spending 40 lakhs, they would have taken that money away. No, put it in the profit. We need to show this. So it all depends on how you want to manage as an MD. That is my call for action. Please, your drugs, all the companies' drugs have to come to this country. People need to have an access. Why does it take about 10 years for the drug to come to somebody who's suffering today in dementia? Why can't the product be available today, right? So that's my only call for action for you, Amitabh. I just want to leave the thought.
Thank you, sir. We have noted your call for action. We also noted across, and a very, very good example shared, sir, how a crisis like COVID had made the ecosystem work so smoothly, putting the patient in the center. Protocols were created, medicines were made available, healthcare systems were made available for people. The model can be replicated. We shouldn't let that model go away and we lose that memory so fast. We have to learn from it and ensure that how we replicate that faster. Coming to Bhushan and putting all this together, how can OPPI today leverage partnerships to make a better impact for patients?
I think Vedish has already articulated, so I'm not sure I will add much. But I think from my perspective, there are a couple of points. We are living in an increasingly, completely uncertain world. There is radical uncertainty, as we call it. And the reason is, I think, 12 months ago, nobody would have anticipated. I'm not just talking about the tariffs and what have you. But our ability to predict even the near to medium term future is increasingly being questioned. Which means the call to action for many of our multinational organizations, and I'm talking about our principals, is to relook at the operating models. Everybody is committing investments in certain geographies. How will that impact the operating models of most of the multinational companies or innovation-led companies is a larger question. Now, if you have to therefore navigate through these uncertain times, the only answer lies in forging collaborations and alliances. Vedish talked of insurance. I mean, we should be incredibly proud that we have the largest insurance scheme anywhere in the world, covering 500 million Indians with Ayushman Bharat. What will it take for many of our member companies at OPPI to access Ayushman Bharat? What will it take for us to triangulate at the state level? Because there are many states which are progressive. In spite of health being a state subject, they are more than happy to look at solutions. And I think the answers largely lie in terms of pulling out those areas of intersection and really working on them as opposed to competing, which we've done for the last 60 years. So I think that, to my mind, will be the roadmap for us ahead.
Thank you. So before we close the session, one last message, and we'll start with Sharad sir. One last message for the audience and young professionals like me in the industry today. What would that be?
Okay. So I'm taking this as for professionals, not for organizations. Many of you here are extremely young, in 30s and 40s and all. You're going to live, hopefully, beyond 1995. You're going to be working for 3 times the time that you have already worked for. And looking at where we are today in the evolution of technology and science, and we are all hearing about AI, my single piece of advice is, even if you understand a little bit, try and get deep into understanding what AI is all about. Because unless you understand it, you will not be able to use it either in personal lives or professional lives. So spend some time, enroll onto certain courses online or otherwise, really understand what AI is all about. Otherwise, you will struggle. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what I can do about it and I'm struggling, but this is my piece of advice to you.
Vaidish, sir.
Yeah, well said, Tyagi. So I will only add to what he said. See, I worked with innovator companies for the last 40 years, right? J&J, GSK, short while in Pfizer. One thing I must tell you, everything what I learned is from these companies. All the companies that you work for are the brilliant companies. So I would say we're all blessed to work for such organization, great values, uh, you know, global thinking. Now, only advice for the professionals I would say is that you all have an opportunity to champion the India's cause. So I would say that people up there, they don't know as much as you know about challenges that you face or opportunities that you have. So please feel free, irrespective of what position that you are in. You know, it could be a product manager, marketing manager, managing director, whatever levels. Whenever you get a chance, please champion some cause and get attention of people at the top, right? So that we can do good for the patients in India, good for the country, and also the good for the company. So don't assume that our role is only a small role. You all are very, very qualified and you have what it takes to champion the cause. So I would say I would leave that as a one ask from my end.
Thank you. Bhushan.
I think just to assimilate what I heard from Sharad, most of the magic is going to happen at the intersection of health and technology in the coming decade. But at the core of it, we all work in the healthcare, broader healthcare industry or pharmaceuticals in specific, because it's still making an impact one patient at a time. And I think if you can marry these two, you'll still be able to create magic on a daily basis. And I think that's the only message. When people ask me why I'm still in the same industry after 35 years, I think the answer is you get a sense of fulfillment, which can't be explained in P&Ls alone.
Ranga, sir, the final statement.
Very difficult to be the last person to, after hearing all these stalwarts. But Bhushan, you're still young. 35 years in the industry is still young, believe me. There are people with 40 plus and 45. Coming to the point of what Amitabh is just talking, I personally believe that partnership between the big Indian companies and multinationals has to be built with great support from the government and each one not looking on the back as to what is happening. I think that partnership, if once that gets built, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this also. After I quit Wyatt, for a couple of years, for almost about 3.5 years, I worked as an advisor to PHRMA. And in that role, I was involved in talking to almost all the Indian major companies. And the only thing which we are trying to figure out is why is it that we are not leveraging each other's strength? How can you leverage each other's strength? And I think we've had discussions with OPPI at that time, with Indian companies, and it is possible. But I think somebody has to move it. Somebody has to make it happen. Maybe in a small way, marketing way, then go to whatever way you want to start. And why I'm saying that's possible is there are now private equities investing in companies. Okay? Now, I don't know why the private equities who are foreign companies, not members of OPPI in the first place. Because it's an Indian company they've invested in, they are a foreign shareholder. So they should be part of the OPPI, right? You got to increase your, what I mean, I just give you an example, you got to increase your strength. As the strength goes down, you cannot have the voice to try and get partnerships and try and build something. So you need to increase your voice, increase your strength, get more number of people, and talk to the companies. I think it's now in today's world, it's easy to get across to the other person and sit down and build partnerships. And that's the only way forward. It'll help the patient, help the country.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
A big round of applause for the past president and current president for the great round of panel discussion. It was a super honor for me to be here to have these questions with all of you. Thank you for coming over. And with that, we closed the round table. So a big thank you once again to all of you.
We'll request the panelists to kindly remain on stage, please. Thank you so much for that powerful reflection. I'll request you all to kindly come together for a quick photo. Kindly stay back on the stage, please. May I request Mr. Anil Matai, DG OPPI, to kindly come onto the stage to felicitate our dignitaries. Can we have the token of appreciation on the stage, please? Can we have a big round of applause for the panelists? Thank you. And our moderator. Now it's time to immerse ourselves in something truly special, an hour of pure soul and sonic brilliance. Music, like medicine, has the power to heal, to transcend boundaries, and to connect us all with each other, with ourselves, and with the ultimate power that be. So this evening, we are privileged to experience a performance by one of the most revered families in the world of Indian classical music, torchbearers of a timeless tradition and creators of melodies that resonate with peace, grace, and universality. Their sarods don't just create music, they create pure, sheer magic. We are deeply honored to welcome the legendary maestro, Ustad Amjad Ali Khan ji, a global icon whose artistry has defined the sarod for the modern world. Accompanying him this evening are his exceptionally gifted sons, Aman Ali Bangash ji and Ayan Ali Bangash ji, brilliant maestros in their own right who continue to carry forward this magnificent legacy with passion, purity, and humility. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the incomparable trio onto the stage. But as we get ready for them, maybe another 2 minutes and we'll welcome them again. Gentlemen, we'll request you all to put your hands together for the artists on the stage. Thank you.
Namaskar and a very good evening to all of you. It's a great honor for us to perform for OPPI, and we truly value what you all are doing. It's really a journey of compassion and helpfulness towards humanity, and we are so grateful to be a part of that journey with all of you. I'd like to thank our Savri Sathi ji and the event team for putting this evening together, and a big thank you to our dear family friend Krishna Sarma ji, who made this prospect move forward and fall in place. So I'll request my brother to announce what we are performing, and we'll take the journey forward. Thank you.
Namaskar, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, respected elders and friends. So this concert tonight is going to be in 3 segments. The first is a duet between my brother Ayan Bhai and me, followed by our Guru, our father, Ustad Jubilee Khan Sahab with his solo, and then we conclude together as a trio. So we will start our performance with a very beautiful Indian traditional rag. It's Rageshri. It's a very traditional old raga. So I hope you all enjoy the music. Thank you very much, with your permission.
Thank you so much. It's time for the main course. So without any further ado, I'd like to call on stage our Guru and Father. Please welcome Ustad Amjad Ali Khan. Thank you. We'll come back for dessert.
Namaskar. Sometimes it takes long to tune all the 19 strings. It's a very temperamental instrument. After that brilliant performance by Amanayan, I'll play a few compositions. Music is a precious gift of God. Music doesn't belong to any religion, like flowers, air, water, fire, fragrance, colors. And music has connected the world. In our country, we say, Swar hi Ishwar hai. So we always feel connected emotionally with the sound, with the music and rhythm. So this piece is called Zila Kafi. Thank you. Most of the songs, they have lyrics, text, some message to convey. But in 13th century, there was a Sufi saint, Hazrat Amir Khusro, who created Qawwali, Qawl, Qalbana, many new ragas, many new instruments. So he created a style of singing called Tarana. So Tarana doesn't belong to any language, it doesn't deal with the language. So he created a language of syllables, language of music, Tanatom, Tadaredani, Dridridani. So I have composed many taranas, but this particular piece is in Rag Bahar. Tadaredani, Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum, Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum, Tanum, Tananum, Taderena, 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 Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum, Taranana dim, Taranana, Taranana dim, Taranum, Taranum, Tarana, Tananum, Tadaredani, Dakitatak, Dumgitatak, Ditakitatak, Dirikatak, Klanda, Klanda, Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum. Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum. Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum. Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum, Tananum, Taderena, 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 Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Taranana dim, Tananana, Tananana dim, Tananum, Tananum, Tadaredani, Dakitatak, Dumgitatak, Ditakitatak, Klanda, Klanda, Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum, Tananum, Tadaredani, Tadani, Tadari, dim, Tanana, 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 Tom, Tanana, Tom, Tanana, Tom, Tanana, Tom, Tom, Tadaredani, Tadani, Tom, Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum, Tadaredani, Tadani dim, Tanatanum, Tadaredani, Tadani dim. I'll play on the sarut now. another tarana in rag, Malkos, a different kind of tarana. Dhi, na, dhi, dhi. Dire dire ta na na, dire dire ta na na, dire dire ta na na, ta na dire dire ta na na, dire ta na na, ta na dire ta dim ta dim ta dim ta na na de na ta na dire na ta na dire na ta gite da ta gite da ta gite dire dire ta na dire ta na dire ta na tanana tom tanana tom tanana tom tanana 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 tom tanana tom tanana tom tanana dir dom tanana dir dom tanana dir dom tanana dir dom tom tanana 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 dir dom tanaderena 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 dir dom tanaderena 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 dir dom na tanaderena tanaderena dire tanana dire tana dire tana tanaderena tadi. Thank you so much. To conclude, I would like to invite Amanayan on the stage. I'm sorry we have to file our nails during the recital, not to beautify our fingers, but it's a necessity because sitar, violin, cello, they are played with fingertip. If I play sarod with fingertip, it will sound like this. To bring out the human expression, the resonance, the sound, we have to press the string with the edge of our fingernails to bring out that brightness. Sound of fingertip with the nail. Please give a big hand to our tabla player, Anubrata Chatterjee. And Zohaib Khan. My elder son, Aman Ali Bangash. And Ayan Ali Bangash. We will conclude with a beautiful song of Rabindranath Tagore, Ekla Chalore. And the request from Krishna Sharma to play Bihu of Assam also.
What a magnificent performance, ladies and gentlemen. A breathtaking journey of melody and emotion. A heartfelt thank you to Ustad Amjad Ali Khan ji, Aman Ali Bangash ji, and Ayan Ali Bangash ji for blessing this evening with music that transcended words and touched our souls. Thank you to the tabla maestros, Mr. Anubrata Chatterjee and Mr. Zoheb Ahmed Khan, for beautifully and soulfully accompanying our Sarod artists with such rhythmic brilliance. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our artists again. May I request Mr. Bhushan Akshikar, President OPPI, to kindly come onto the stage and felicitate our distinguished artists. Ustad Amjad Ali Khan ji. Maybe. Aman Ali Bangash ji and Ayan Ali Bangash ji. Our tabla maestros, Mr. Anubrata Chatterjee, and Mr. Zoheb Ahmed Khan. As we celebrate 60 years tonight, we also look ahead with renewed energy and a stronger sense of purpose. The future of healthcare lies in collaboration, and OPPI will continue to champion that spirit, working hand in hand with our partners to make India not just pharmacy of the world, but truly a pharma powerhouse to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this journey and for joining us in celebrating the power of partnerships. Now let's raise a toast to 60 years of OPPI and many more years of innovation, integrity, and impact. Thank you so much and enjoy the evening ahead. This is Asavari Sathe. Thank you for joining us. Namaskar. Please join us. Ladies, go. Masood, go. Go, 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 go.
भैया माइक्स अच्छा वो आएगा विजय भाई वो माइक्स निकाल
Done, done.